you mind leading us in prayer, please?
Yes, sir. Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. We thank you for this city. We trust you that you're in control, and no matter what happens, no matter what we see, we know that you're going to make it happen. And we commit this meeting into your hands. We ask you that you bless every citizen, every family, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Danny, join me in the pledge of allegiance to our flag, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Henry.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Rowe.
Here.
Barker.
Here.
Driven.
Here.
Hernandez.
Here.
Staggs.
Here.
Okay, citizen comments. Valerie Martinez, you'll be given 3 minutes. You want to come forward?
I had a couple of questions about the emergency clauses that you have on the agenda. As per state law, it does say that such an emergency measure must state blah, 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 and it goes on to say that the question of emergency must be ruled upon separately and approved, but it also says things like preservance of peace, health, or safety, and I was really confused about why the part about the financial, the physical quarter information would be falling under that. It doesn't seem like it should, and so I was wondering why we were considering it as an emergency clause. And also, it does state that on the agenda, it's supposed to tell us why it was being considered an emergency clause. It does not do that on our agenda, so that's kind of a problem.
Valerie, we'll address that when we come to that agenda item, and those are things will be
Okay,
explained.
that is agenda item 13 and 15.
Exactly.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Valerie. Okay, 6th consent agenda. Discussion, consideration, possible action on consent agenda. The following items are considered routine by the Lindsay City Council and will be enacted with one motion. Discussion desired on any item, that item will be removed from consent agenda and considered separately.
I'd make a motion to approve A and B, take out C because we need a correction.
Okay, motion's been made to approve A and B and to wait on C for a correction. Second. Second. Roll call, please.
Staggs.
No.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Driven.
Yes.
Barker.
Abstain.
Rowe.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Hinman.
Yes. Okay.
The correction needs to be on the LPWA purchase order. Put that purchase order claims list, or you have one, okay.
We have a draft for animal shelter here on the cemetery.
Yes.
Okay.
It needs to be moved.
Show me where that is. Cemetery, there you go.
It's right after the sheet of,
Oh, animal welfare.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They all went, and it may be just in this,
Well, I mean,
This
it's probably
description.
miscategorized.
yes, it's just described. probably it should be in animal control, and she lumped them all in one, but we will break those out in the payments according to the line item in their budgets and make that correction. I appreciate that, Josh.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the change.
Okay, motion's been made to approve with that change. Need a second?
Second.
Second, roll call, please.
Inman,
Yes?
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Staggs,
No.
Okay, 7, consideration of items removed from consent agenda, we just did that. 8, update from the city, from the Lindsay Municipal Hospital Administrator.
Good evening, and thanks for letting me have the opportunity to do this update. It's been a while, so I appreciate being here. That's on us. We've been having a lot of things going on. But as many of you guys know, we've got the construction project going on in the back, which is an extension of our emergency department. And do appreciate everyone's patience, because on occasion, might be some construction equipment or things back there that makes it a little tight. And the waiting room is not the greatest at the moment. But that was made possible by federal COVID funding. We may have talked about that in the past. But what I am excited about is there's going to be 2 entrances, one for emergencies and urgent care, and one for outpatients. So it's going to upgrade the patient experience significantly. You'll be able to come in, have a separate waiting room for each of those areas, check in right there, so you won't have to take the jaunt down the hall and a circuitous route to get there. And I think it's going to be a major improvement. Also, ultrasound. Anybody's had an ultrasound at the hospital before? The ultrasound room is going to be much bigger, and there'll be an extra patient consultation room. So I think that's going to really be nice. And if there's no unforeseen issues, we're hoping like midsummer to have that done, and that'll be amazing. I think as an upgrade. Also, parking back there. We've already got some extra, but work hard on that. So you can just park in the back, walk over, check in, get your patient services, and just go back out. So as far as flow, I'm really excited about that. I did kind of a little comparison for fiscal year 21 to 22 as we go on the fiscal year, but things definitely are looking much better than a couple of years ago as far as volume of patients. A couple of admissions are down, which is interesting, about 11%, but our patient days are up 3%. So in terms of actual patient care and volume, we're actually up, even though they're staying longer. There's less coming in, but they're staying longer. And a couple other things, outpatient visits are slightly down, and endoscopy procedures are slightly down. But overall, our orthopedic surgeries, clinic visits are up 38%. CTs are up 3%, ER visits are up almost 14%, and we're all getting back into a more business as usual setup. In the last few months we have had, and you guys have all experienced it, there's been some flu and other things besides COVID, which is, I don't want to say it's kind of nice, but it's nice to have some different things besides COVID. We've been blessed not to have a lot of COVID over the last several months, and then when we do, it doesn't seem as not as impactful as it was. People are actually, the flu and some of these other things are making them sicker. So I hope that's a good sign, positive sign going forward. And then we have several other things we're trying to do. There's some funds we're going to try to get to for drainage and things on the west side of the hospital to be able to pay for that. And we're wrapping up some other kind of internal projects we have going on. Still have a great relationship, which obviously we need to have with the Department of Corrections, and we're looking at some things we can do extra for them. And of course, we want to keep on improving everything for the community. Are there any questions or things you guys have been wondering about or thinking about? No? Okay, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Appreciate your report. I think there's no action required on that, is there? Okay. Retainer agreement number 9 for city attorney. Discussion, consideration, possible action to approve the retainer agreement for professional and legal services for Ray Jones representing the city as a city attorney.
As you know, Ms. Mullins' last day was December 31st. I have reached out to Mr. Jones, and he is here in the audience if you have any questions, and for him to address the council regarding the retainer agreement or any questions that may arise out of that.
Would you like me to approach the podium, sir?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Ray Jones. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. I believe you've got a copy of my retainer agreement and also, I guess, a little background about me and my firm, for which I am a partner. I'm here to entertain any questions that you might have regarding any of that. I've been practicing law in the state of Oklahoma since 2005, almost exclusively with respect to representing counties and municipalities in various issues, whether it be litigation to consulting with opinion letters, working with disagreements among staff and personnel. I have a contract with OMAG where I do a lot of litigation work for municipalities all across the state, and I have been doing that now since 2008. Previous to that, it was with the Association of County Commissioners, where I represented just about every single county in the state except for 3, I believe. The range of, like I said, I've covered all sorts of different issues. Discrimination in the workplace tends to be something that happens quite a bit. Police liability, traffic accidents, other little issues that crop up from time to time with respect to how cities have to operate and relate to these issues quite frequently. Yeah, any questions for me?
I think this is probably spelled out, but I want to ask you what you would be here at our meetings, you personally, as much as possible. I understand there might be you can't guarantee that, but as much as possible, you plan to be here.
I will be here for every regularly scheduled meeting. That's stated expressly in the contract. If for some reason I am sick, ill, out of the country, for the state, I would plan to make arrangements beforehand to have someone from my firm come here and be present to assist in administering the council proceedings and to answer whatever questions that person might be able to address on such short notice. But I have been the city attorney for Bethany, and this is, I'm in the 3rd year. I've missed one meeting due to a death event.
That's important to me personally. I just want to make sure. The other thing, I guess, and I think this is spelled out too, but I want to ask you publicly. Accessibility from city manager to city council, how accessible would you be?
And this is one of the things I think is different with respect to me is to meeting other attorneys that practice for municipalities. As you see, I proposed a flat rate fee, period. There's no hourly charge. Municipalities, I think, the staff in the municipalities tend to get worried that if you call an attorney for advice, you're going to bill get this billable hour, and it's going to accumulate even if you have a very important question that you think needs to be addressed by legal. And because of that, I think there's no reliance on attorneys when there really need to be as much reliance as possible. And so I will make myself available by cell phone, email, text message, to answer calls for staff, city management, department heads especially, because they often get faced with uncertain issues on almost daily or weekly basis, and they need some guidance if they can't get that from their city manager. And likewise for council members, they might have a question regarding some legal matters. And I welcome those communications, because it helps to bring the city together as a team. The city only works as well as a team.
A lot of times, and I think we're dealing with one here tonight, I think, and it's not anybody currently, but failed to review something that was done, but is that additional cost for you to review things and to?
Absolutely not. So, for example, let's say everything that was on the agenda for today, there was a couple ordinances on there. Those actually obviously would be reviewed and approved by me to make sure that they're consistent with the law. Even prior to that, I would have consulted with city management, perhaps with council member, any of the council member sponsored ordinance, and making sure that we've got the appropriate language and meaning intended to be voted upon. That's no extra charge. Anything that's routine business, contracts that you might need to get a new fire truck, or contracts for some sort of TV service or something like that, for getting it out to the citizens, review all those, and make sure that they're consistent with Oklahoma law, for one, and that the city isn't prejudiced by those. Now, I do carve out some exceptions, but I think those are probably already addressed. I think there is counsel already that represents the city with respect to collective bargaining. That's a very special subset of the law. Same thing with public finance. It's a very special public aspect, very special aspect of the law that, to be frank, I would get the city in trouble if I delved into that. So those things I wouldn't do, but if there's like litigation that the city wishes me to pursue, for example, that would be outside, because litigation costs can be expensive, and I'd have to, you could contract with me at the rate that I've negotiated there, or our other counsel to take care of it. Also, though, being with OMAG, currently with the city of Bethany, I do get assigned cases to defend the city and in litigation that comes through OMAG. So that there's a benefit there, because there's no breakdown in communication with representation of the city directly, and so that's actually been quite beneficial. Not all the cases come my way, because sometimes there's a conflict that I don't want to get involved in, because I may have done some investigation or something up front. But that is kind of another benefit. And of course, in those type of cases, OMAG, your insurance, would pay for the costs.
Questions?
Would we get a report at the end of, or, from you to say, the city manager, do you send a report, anything like that at the end of the month?
Well, I would be present during the meetings, and so I do this at Bethany. I give a report if there's information to report regarding activities. For example, there's some opioid litigation going on. Occasionally, I will get updates on that. I will report those to the city council during the city council meeting and to the public. Oftentimes, legal counsel operates behind the scenes. Most of my work is going to be in guiding and shepherding the staff and making sure that the city is not violating laws. With respect to ordinances and other business matters that come before, I've already done all of the lion's share of my work before we get to that point. So there's not really much to report on, other than there's an ordinance that's been prepared. Now, there's always little exceptions with respect to City of Bethany. I give an example. They convened a charter review committee. That was outside my contract, but I agreed to go ahead and take it on because I know that it's important. So there's no extra charge that I did in that particular instance, but I would give monthly updates on where we were at that point in time. We're looking at these provisions of the charter this particular month, next month. This is where we're at. We're at a stalemate. Give little reports on progress in that regard. Was that responsive to your question?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great.
Other questions?
Yeah.
So basically, the flat rate that you've got is gonna cover most of our normal business. I mean,
It will cover all of your
I mean,
business.
it-
And
it's
I estimate, you know, with the city of Bethany, David Davis, I don't know if you know who he is, but he was the city attorney for Bethany for almost 30 years. And then he retired, and there were a series of council that kind of followed him before I was hired. I consulted with Mr. Davis on the volume of work hours typically would be necessary to operate the city, and he gave me a sum. And so I did the same here with Amanda, who had been your previous council. And I estimate that anywhere from 30 to 35 hours a month, I will be answering questions, writing ordinances, doing something for the city. Now, it could be less, it could be more. There were times with Bethany that I was billing, you know, I was not billing, but keeping track of the hours where there was like 45, 50 hours in a month. Over this 2.5-year period, it's averaged out to about 30 hours a month, which is what Mr. Davis had estimated. And I anticipate the same about 30 hours or so.
You had mentioned your work with OMAG.
Yes, sir.
And conflicts. Do you feel that there's any previous work you've done on anything with OMAG here?
Well, and yes, there are some pending tort claims, which I have prepared a report on, or will prepare a summary to explain in executive session. If any of those were to develop into litigation, I think if I was hired, OMAG should probably assign another counsel to that. But otherwise, I'm not aware of any other case or a situation where I would be excluded because of some sort of conflict.
So basically, any city of Lindsay business that would funnel to you possibly through OMAG would be diverted to other attorneys.
I'm sorry, I think I just.
Basically, any business from Lindsay would be diverted to other attorneys in your firm if.
No, they would come to me if OMAG elected to select me as the representative counsel. Just these 7 tort claims that recently came through, I was involved in investigation, interviewing, employees, and I think if I were to be hired as Lindsay's city attorney, that any of those were to develop into litigation, I think it would be a bit more beneficial to have someone else litigate those. Mostly because I want to make sure that the employees can still come to me if they have questions about legalities or things of that in the daily operation of business, and not feel like, oh no, this person is representing the city of Lindsay and my tort claim. And typically, if there was a tort claim that involved an employee, OMAG would assign someone outside of to another firm altogether. It wouldn't be my firm at all.
Other questions?
Did you prepare this contract?
I most certainly did.
There's one problem.
What's that now?
City of Bethany, Oklahoma, by Tom Inman, Mayor.
You must have gotten a revised, unfinalized version of the contract.
We did go through a revision. Yeah, that's still in there. I have the correct one to sign. Yeah.
But it's not in our packet, so.
Is there anything other than the city name that changed from your revision to this?
No. I have the revised. I looked at that and I didn't see that. Here is the corrected one. It addresses the section of the ordinances where the attorney, attorney is addressed, and how they're hired. And I should have passed these out earlier too, and I forgot.
There were probably about 4 phases of revisions that went through on this particular contract. Originally, and just to kind of give clarification to everyone, obviously, I've prepared this contract before with respect to, not this exact terms, but with other municipalities and providing representation. So it started with that as a foundation, and then we make edits, submit it to Janice for review. She sends back some suggested changes, I make changes, and we go through this process, an editing process, until we got to a final document.
I don't believe that, mention of Bethany in there is, gonna keep you from being able to approve the contract.
Well, the fact it was not this should have been in the packet. By law, we cannot vote on this with that one word. Would be legal.
I think I'll ask our attorney if he's hired.
Your attorney?
The attorney, I didn't say my attorney. It has our provisions of our ordinances, it defines the city,
If I may, contracts can be modified by council even during discussion that's going on at the moment. So a contract can be provided to you in your packet. The council can decide to approve the contract with certain modifications, and then it's made good. The simple fact that there are going to be amendments or changes to the contract doesn't change the fact that you can still vote on and discuss and make amendments to that contract. The same as it is with like an ordinance. If you put an ordinance and you decide to make changes to that ordinance, you can vote, we'll approve this ordinance with this change, it's approved. Even though it's not what was actually presented in the packet. And so under Oklahoma law, each of you have the power to participate in the body as a whole, to make amendments and changes and alterations to certain things that you're going to vote on with respect to what might be in the packet.
And I don't see that, but as an example, if you had a wrong date, I don't think there is a wrong date, but there's a wrong date, we could correct that.
Absolutely.
Or anything else that was,
You could even make the council could vote to make a substantive change to the contract or ordinance. For example, let's say that, just put something absurd out there, that you wanted to do the contract for $1. Obviously, if I was agreeable to that, you can make that vote, even though that's not actually the language that's in the contract. That can be approved. The final document can be prepared, submitted to the mayor for signature, and it would be valid.
is that a proposal?
We'll accept the dollar.
Any other questions or concerns or?
I was just reading the item on the agenda, that second paragraph. It really identifies, I think, what Mr. Jones has just identified. The governing body may adopt, approve, ratify, deny, defer, recommend, amend, or strike, or continue any agenda item. So that's kind of on that verbiage on that agenda, so.
Any other questions?
would you like to know what legal issues we need legal services on pretty quickly? And both of those are the UTS and census agreements. The water board is waiting on those. I've got a nuisance, public nuisance that was filed by the county in 20 that the owner's describing as filed wrong, and the lien is about $17,000 now, so we need to figure out whether that was done properly. Of course, in this few days of period, you know, the ordinances was done by another, and of course he will review those again, I'm assuming. So we've got some critical things that are gonna languish and wait, that are time of the essence, particularly those contracts, so UTS and census contracts. So the Oklahoma Water Resources Board is waiting on those, and the contractor is waiting to get paid, and they cannot get paid until these contracts are submitted to the water board, so they're getting pretty anxious about that. So those are just the highlights. I mean, a few other internal ordinances and future things to be looking at as we move forward, but we need somebody to review some things immediately. Because of that lap, Amanda stopped and her legal services stopped.
That's one thing that, you know, we need help in regard, because the contract was approved by the council, not this council, but
It wasn't approved.
it was not.
Yeah.
The attorney had not signed off on it, and it was, well,
There were clauses within it that were questionable or not necessarily
Yes.
sound from a
Yeah.
legal standpoint.
yes, and, I mean, it's, so, I guess that's maybe another comment. You would be, if you saw we're doing something, think, hold the phone here, you guys need some.
Absolutely, and part of that is really, the key to that is just engagement and communication with the city staff, city management, as much as possible. I know in the city of Bethany, and even I know with respect to the particular agenda item for the executive session, I was consulted with by the city manager. We worked on the language on that for some time before it actually came before to be put on the agenda. And it's the same thing would typically happen with respect to contracts. If they are going to be adopted or accepted, those would be provided to me, and I examine them to look for suspect language or things that need to be amended, and we can make those changes. I do that frequently for the city of Bethany. I also, you know, participate in you don't have that here, but, you know, I participated in negotiations with Pafford Ambulance Service. They wanted to make changes to their contract. We sat down, we talked about what they would want and whether or not the city could accommodate any of those needs. But that's just an example of the type of services that I would be involved in if, you know, I were to be hired as a secretary.
Well, I just hope an agenda item was on there that you had felt comfortable that we were approving. We know, because we don't always know the legalities of the, you know, fine print sometimes, and we hope that whoever the council represents us legally would help us in that area. That's something, and I'm not trying to throw somebody under the bus previously, because I think whatever reason it happened, it doesn't matter, you know, but we need to make sure we do that in the future. In regard to like those meters, for example, I think that's.
Another one is explaining the emergency clause on the ordinances.
Right.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, I entertain a motion then. Okay, thank you.
I entertain a motion that we hire Robert Ray Jones Jr. as city attorney.
Need a second?
Second.
Choose one. Roll call, please.
Stacks,
No,
Hernandez,
No.
Drennan,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Inman,
Yes. Okay. Number 10, resolution number 2023-01, discussion, consideration, possible action to approve resolution number 2023-01, authorizing $12,000, $884.90 funds from 2019-2020 workers' compensation plan year towards premium payments due to the workers' compensation property / GL and auto policy.
Make a motion to pass the resolution 2023-01 to apply the funds toward premium payments.
Second.
Motion second been made. Roll call, please.
Inman,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Staggs,
Yes.
Number 11, EMS Medical Director and Consulting Contract, discussion, consideration, possible action to approve contract agreement with Dr. John Harrison, doing business as EMS Medical Director and Consulting for the City of Lindsay. Just to let you know, I think that's been lowered by $500 a month, so that's a little bit of good savings.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Dr. John Harrison with the lower rate.
Second.
Motion's been made second. Roll call, please.
Staggs,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes. Ordinance number 571, discussion, consideration, possible action to approve ordinance number 571, amending chapter 4 aviation, article 2, airport board, section 4-49 of the code of ordinances of the city of Lindsay.
We recently appointed a new slate of airport board members. They have met, they were looking at their duties and powers under our code of ordinances, and they have looked at a few things that they would like to see possibly changed. I think there was a change sometime back about meeting, you shall meet monthly. There's not enough activity according to the board members to really keep a monthly meeting going. They proposed a biannual with an annual reporting to the city council on their activities. Of course, in my discussion with them, they will call special meetings when and if the need arises. Take for instance, there's an airport event or something, they could be very helpful in monitoring and also helping us follow some FAA guidelines and regulations. I recommend that we approve these changes that allow them to move forward and make some improvements to the airport. And I believe Andrew Lyon here is the chair, if you have any questions regarding those. There's two separate ordinances. Our previous city attorney created these, so both are addressing different sections of the code.
Any questions or?
All changes follow the FAA rules and regulations, if I didn't say that.
Could we have someone explain each one of them, especially for the public and everything that might not know?
Andrew, I passed out the minutes attached to this report that helps identify that, but you're here and that's even better.
Here I am.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, the one she specifically mentioned there, I don't know if there's too much further explanation on our routine. We've got a runway, 4 hangars and a fence, so there's just not a whole lot for us to discuss unless something does come up. She mentioned some activities. I know we had an RC demonstration out here recently. The board wasn't active at that time. We didn't have a board, and that was really what prompted us to get the board going again. But like she said, we feel a monthly meeting is really not necessary most of the time because there's not much happening. So we would like to do we're essentially on the hook for biannually And then, of course, we can add to that as necessary. If any of you need us to do anything, we're happy to get together, discuss those, do a special meeting, whatever we need to do. The second ordinance.
What, we need to wait to
Do we
do
wanna
that.
wait?
I mean, I don't care.
I can
just know.
expound on that if you have any more questions.
All right, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
proceed to the, ordinance, number 14 there?
Yes.
Okay, and this is the one regarding landings and takeoffs. Okay, so the previous ordinance in place since 1971, states that all landings and takeoffs have to be made from the runway. So, and that probably seems quite reasonable. However, there's a lot more than just regular old airplanes that use airports. Helicopters do not land on runways, ever. You can't land one, because once you land it, you can't move, and that gets in the way of other aircraft. So, if you guys haven't noticed, quite a few military aircraft come through here. They go out there, they land out on the grass. That's where and we've had some visiting helicopters, privately owned ones. Some of you may remember the power line crew that has the big saw that hangs down from the helicopter. They came, stayed a few days. They have to land, they can't land on a runway. So, in essence, people like that would break our ordinance doing that, and they have done so for many years. It's just that nobody knew it was there probably, and I'm sure local law enforcement doesn't go out and bust people that land in the grass. It's as simple as that. Several other areas of aviation take place at airports. Those include ultralight aircraft, which are common, such as hang gliders, paragliders, paramotors, powered parachutes, the small home-built aircraft, many of those designed to be operated on grassy areas. They're made to land in short areas and take off from very short areas, and they're designed for those kind of activities. Furthermore, as far as ultralight aircraft are concerned, the FAA handbook for, I'll specifically address powered parachutes because that's been one of the reasons this whole thing came up. We have a powered parachute. I'm sure you guys all have seen it. It looks like a go-kart with a parachute with a big fan on the back. Those are FAA registered legal aircraft permitted to operate just like any of the rest of us do. In the FAA guideline for powered parachutes, the guidance in there specifically states that those type of aircraft should not use paved areas, paved runways, specifically ones with runway lighting. They're designed to be operated off of grassy areas, and in that handbook it states as much, that at airports they are to avoid using the runways. They're to try to use open areas of the property. So that is a common thing. I've been flying for a number of years, been to a lot of airports. There's a lot of those things flying around. They're kind of new to this area. We haven't seen them much, but I've flown many places where those guys are operating away from the runway, over on the side, what have you. That being said, those guys do have rules, just like the regular airplane guys have rules and the helicopter guys have rules for safe operation on an airport, in the sky, wherever they're operating. And we believe that there's plenty adequate rules and regulations already made by the FAA there, and that the ordinance that we have is unusually restrictive to multiple branches, so to speak, of aviation. So we discussed and decided that we should strike that particular ordinance as it's uncommon. I'll also add, before we did that, we looked at a number of different airports in the area. I don't remember all of them. I know we looked at Chickasha, we looked at Miami, Ardmore, Sallisaw, Ada, maybe a few others in the area, some of the kind of medium-sized towns, and several of the smaller towns don't really have many ordinances all to draw from. add-ons to draw from, so we use some of the larger town ordinances. I only found one in anywhere near our area that had such a restriction in place. That was Ardmore. All the rest do permit such activities on the airport. And so that's where we decided we should also stand.
Any questions? Okay. Well, then we'll entertain a motion on number 12 first, and we'll,
Andrew.
thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 571.
Second.
Motion's been made, second, roll call, please.
Inman,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Staggs.
Yes.
Okay, emergency clause, you want to go ahead?
Ray, you might explain to the council the purposes of emergency clauses, and each ordinance prepared always has that severability and emergency clause. I'm assuming.
Well, not every ordinance has emergency clauses. And I think a citizen had come up and said that, you know, there needs to be a public health, safety type of issue that's attached to the emergency clause. And in general, that's correct. In the ordinance itself, it should set out some rationale for the reason that an emergency clause is added. I don't know what the ordinance says with respect to that, but there should be a clause in the specific ordinance saying that, say with respect to the airport board, I don't know if there would be a health or safety or public issue that would require an emergency ordinance or emergency clause. As far as I understand the presentation, it was just regarding the frequency with which the board would meet. That's not really an emergency in my opinion. Now, obviously, I think with respect to the second ordinance dealing with flying and landings and takeoffs, there are serious public safety reasons to make sure that our ordinances are in compliance with FAA statutes and general aviation law. And so in that particular instance, I could see that that would be the rationale for having an emergency clause.
I would say on this, the first ordinance on the emergency clause, that we would not address that item and just not table it, but take no action on that.
Okay.
I think it has been pretty standard here to put those emergencies as they are, and we probably still will, but it's the council's option to approve that process or not. I believe without the emergency also, it'll not be 30 days,
30 days.
yes.
Do we need a motion for no action, or do we just need to?
No, it's just no action.
Just no action. Unless somebody wants to. Okay. So 14, ordinance number 572, discussion, consideration, possible action to approve ordinance number 572, repealing section 4-3, general regulations regarding landings and takeoffs in chapter 4, aviation, article 1, general of the code of ordinances of the city of Lindsay. I think Andrew described that. Does anybody have any further questions? We'll entertain a motion to approve that then.
Make a motion, we approve ordinance 572.
Second.
Motion and second's been made to approve ordinance 572. Roll call, please.
Staggs,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Okay, emergency clause.
Yeah, you may, if somebody wants to make a motion, if they don't, then
I don't think that one rises to the meeting either. It's just my opinion.
When we take no action, Mr. Attorney, should we actually,
That's the wonderful thing about the emergency clauses. If there's no motion, there's no vote, and then it doesn't matter. And that's why they're voted on separately. That way, if the ordinance passes, it's passed. If it's an emergency and there's some rationale for really pushing it forward, then there would have to be an independent vote. Of course, it would have to also meet with the 3/4 requirement of the council.
okay, so I guess this,
Yeah, here you don't need to do it.
yeah, just somebody want,
Move on.
everybody want, seeing no action, we'll move on to number 16 then. Lindsay Community Library Board, discuss consideration of possible action to appoint 2 board members to the Lindsay Community Library Board to a 2-year term expiring in January of 2025. Nancy Huckabee and Jean Robbins.
Did we not include the applications?
No, I've never done that on any of the, on the previous ones you voted on, didn't have that. They both have, been discussed, talked to, and are willing to serve. I think they both are very interested in the library and the library's, programs and how to make the library more active, accessible to the community. So I think you've got a good round board coming up. These are replacing 2 who have resigned and fill those roles. I recommend they be appointed.
Okay, entertain a motion.
We'll make a motion to appoint Nancy Huckabee and Jean Robbins.
Second.
Motion's been made, second, roll call please.
Inman,
Yes?
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Staggs,
Yes,
17, HBC CPAs and advisor, discuss consideration of possible action to engage HBC CPAs and advisors to conduct the 2021-2022 fiscal year audits.
In your packet are their engagement letters identifying their audit objectives, their procedures. I believe this firm has been used before. You'll also find their fee schedule for each audit. For the 2021, the fee schedule is between $23,000 and $25,000. That's industry standard, not too bad. Of course, there's some other fees in there if they were required or asked to do that as well. In the 2022 engagement letter, the fee schedule for that year is between $25,000 to $27,000. Of course, also identifying additional fees if or what they become, if requested to do those scopes of work. That is industry standard. We know these audits are gonna be difficult. Sometimes probably finding true documentation for certain purposes. So, this is another example of those costs that, we plan on, and this is about $50,000 to do a 2-year audit. We're just stuck with 2 years, so.
I don't recall who did the 20 audit. Did they own the 20 audit?
I think we did.
Actually, is there any issue with using the same auditor back to back to back?
No. Now, about every 5 years or so, you may want to switch audits just to get a new perspective, just to take a change. I'm going to take, for instance, if you decided to change today, that fee's going to go higher because they're going to have to come in and learn what these others already know. And that would increase in fees with a brand new audit. That eventually may work back down, but this isn't the year to do a change, let's put it that way.
These actually should have been done, one of them should have been already completed for sure, but it hasn't been.
So
We're required to
we,
complete it.
are we done with 22, or what we're trying to do here is get on the board?
We're trying to get in their schedule, and if Crawford and them are working to finalize 21 and 22, their team is gonna be on, full team on staff the end of January and probably a first week or two in February to get the 21, 22 financials and a reporting that they're required to do to submit to the HBC group.
Okay, if we get on the board now, what is the ETA on when the audits will commence? Any idea?
Chris with this group indicated the end of April.
In the back?
Yeah, we're getting on the schedule. We're not gonna wait till the last, so we'll be June, July, because all other city audits begin as the same.
Will they complete one before the other, or simultaneously? It doesn't matter to me, I'm just curious.
Well, they'll probably complete one before the other, but they'll probably work them very closely. They may come to you and review both of those at the same meeting. I know we're really pushing to get 21 done quickly because we're in a situation where some of our grant applications need more current audits. We're getting in that sticky situation where we don't have that to give to the agencies that are needing them from us at this point in time. So we're kind of behind in that reporting.
Okay, being new to this and everything, at the end of these audits right here and everything, they come to us with their results.
Yes.
Is there any results that keep us from getting these finalized?
The only things that will keep us from moving forward, we have to have audits from the hospital and from our LIDA group.
And where are we at on those?
I believe the hospital's working to get theirs, and LIDA has submitted theirs to the financials. I haven't followed up on what has been done on those yet. So they have a month or two to kind of get into us, but our audit team will need those audits to complete because the city is the beneficiary of both of these trusts, and they have to be incorporated, so.
And your question is, we've got to have those, or, kind of, that would hold us up if they didn't get those put in.
Yes.
Any other questions? And we really need to get, in my opinion, we really get these things done.
Yes, it does.
Need a motion to approve, or a further question, somebody else has a question.
I make a motion we approve to move forward with HBC and get them scheduled to do audits.
Second.
Motion been made in second, roll call please.
Inman,
Yes?
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Staggs.
Yes.
Okay, number 18, search committee, discussion, consideration, possible action, establish a search committee to review city manager applications. We're starting to get a few applications, and this is by no means that we're going to, this committee would be more of a, bring information back to the entire council. I don't anticipate this being a, that 2 or 3 people look at everything and say, here's our guy, and these other people we're not gonna consider. That's not, it's just kind of to look and more or less see and let the council know that, Joe Smith, he looks like a good candidate, blah, 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 blah. Mary Jones, we're concerned about these things, and then you guys would have copies of the resume, and we got time to actually sit down to interview, and if you had somebody come to you that, you know about, you could certainly recommend. It's just a way to kind of find out some general information, and if you guys don't like that idea, we'll not do it. Does anybody want to serve on a search committee? I will, and I don't have to. If somebody objects, I'm just fine if I don't.
I will.
Vern, okay,
I will.
okay. And I wanna make it clear that this by no means is the three of us are gonna get together and decide. This is just kind of preliminary review to make sure that, and kind of list out probably every applicant. I anticipate almost anybody that applies being brought to the council and say, this person has no experience, or they have multiple years' experience, or they've done this thing or this thing, or they're just getting out of prison. I'm not saying that's what happened, but you understand, we do need some background brought to the entire council, so you guys can look at. Then if we got to the point where we thought, the entire council thought we want to bring these 2 people in, 3 people to interview and talk to, and that would be, and we could decide how you guys can, hopefully this would be a quick process. I doubt it's going to be a quick process, but
I'll make a motion to establish a review committee for the initial applications of Tom, Vern, and Bart. To review the applications as you receive them in, to bring them to the full council. But they're
okay, motion's been made. Any second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Staggs,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Miller,
yes.
Inman.
Yes. Okay, executive session, discussion, consideration, possible action to enter into executive session pursuant to 25 Oklahoma statute section 307B4 to discuss confidential communication between the public body and its attorney concerning 7 pending court claims filed on or about August of 2022. If the public body attorney concerning 7 pending, I skipped a line. With the advice of the attorney, determines that disclosure will seriously impair the liability or ability of the public body to process the claim or conduct pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest. I hope I do a better job of reading that in the future. We'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for that purpose.
I'll move to enter executive session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Inman,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Staggs,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay? We need a motion to reconvene, I think, is that correct? I think.
I make a motion to reconvene.
Second.
Motion is second, roll call please.
Staggs,
Yes,
Hernandez,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Executive session action, basically none that we need to vote on. Governing body comments. I wanna mention this to, I've talked to 2 or 3 different people about the real estate that we have. And, I mean, not that we've made any kind of agreement, don't misunderstand, it's just information only, showing people and local people and another individual. And, you know, I think we're probably getting closer to the point where, you know, we need to, if you hadn't seen the property, I'll be glad to take you out there and show it to you. You know, some of the property, there's several different things we own around town and outside the city limits, the old dump. And there's a couple of things we'll have to clean up in regard to, we'll check with you later on. So it's city of Lindsay, some of it LPWA, even after where the old city dump was. If you called up on those, who has a property, LPWA has a bunch of it. There's about 75 acres, that's a ballpark figure, that falls into the city of Lindsay, which is a different, you know, area. Behind that caboose up here, there's an old white, a couple of buildings there, I'm pretty sure the city owns. And I'm not saying that we're gonna sell any of them, guys, that's not what I'm saying, I'm just saying that's what we have. And there's other areas that we looked at, anything that we got to the point of thinking that'd be a good idea, you know, we'll come back to let you guys know that, put it on an agenda item. We think that this would be the best way to do that, and if you got a great idea, well, I'm not trying to ramrod it, I just had some time to meet with a guy and talk to some other people, and if you've got a better idea, I'll be glad to let somebody else. I know we need to at least explore the option of selling that property, some of it. And you may not be able to do it, and may not be able to get near what we want, we may not want to do it, but we need to explore the options.
I actually talked to somebody this past week about the landfill. They said they'd be able to pay cash. I think they even have so many acres of easement, so
I think it's 30, isn't
I can't remember.
it? I
But
think it's
they'd
right.
be willing to pay cash.
Cash.
Well, and, you know, I just want to get the most money for it and also make sure it's legally done.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I know if it was my property, you know, I could do that. And if it's not my property, we make sure, I'm not saying that wouldn't work. It might be a great idea and work great. If it does, well, you know,
Josh, hasn't this been put out for bid
No,
once before?
no.
Didn't we vote to sell it?
We voted to look into getting,
Sealed
sealed bids possibly.
But it never happened.
But we were bringing up the appraisal. Has the appraisal been, is the appraisal still good on the property?
I talked to the guy who did it, he says it's a couple of years old, it could go up, could go down. You know, in reviewing it through the sealed bid process, what came to light, there were a lot of clouds, meaning there's lots of easements out there. There now is 2 sections out there, LPWA and city, that we weren't aware of. So there's some things that was creating some obstacles that to prepare it for a sealed bid. Then we determined, okay, sealed bids, you get sealed bids, this is just a potential, and none of you like their bids, and you reject those bids. Your bidders have exposed their hands, so you're not gonna get another set of good sealed bids if you go, well, let's go out for sealed bids again. So I think that's where the mayor has looked at options with real estate brokers who are in the business to define and how to market this to get the premium price. And if the individuals you're talking about come to the table and that's the premium price, then I think, you know, those are all options. I would still want to discuss with the city attorney how to legally follow through this process and make sure we've covered all the bases and everybody has an opportunity to submit or purchase this property. So, whether that's putting it under a real estate agent who can market it out there and get the highest dollar. I know your appraisal said it didn't include any environmental issues or assessments. You've got to identify to the public, because that's environmental, yeah.
There's also a house at the very back of that, and the only way in is through that lease road, or it's not the lease road, but it's
Right,
Well,
we
it's-
gave him an easement
the easement,
back in 19 or 20.
yeah. But I don't think anybody's living in the house currently, but still, I don't think you can, I mean, that'd be something we'd need to make sure we,
Yeah, that's something we need to check legally, because I think
Yeah.
Oklahoma law.
and I'm not trying, I don't
To
know,
where you
guys, I'm
can.
just trying to, I'm just looking at options. All I did is, since I'm retired and good for nothing, I thought I would just, and I've done nothing, there's no agreement's been made, trust me. I'm just looking, I'd bring it to you guys and say,
So
here's,
basically, we're in a wait period while we clean up all the cloud and call issues.
well, and we need to look and see, I think, you know, just what is, one, legally, what we gotta do. Two, then what is the best way to sell it for the most money? You know, and I don't know what that is. If I knew that, I'd probably be rich, but I'm not talking about,
There's even a discrepancy in that appraisal. It says 377, but you really start tagging it on, there's like 385 acres.
there's
So
300,
there's-
yeah,
so-
like 317 in the LPWA, and then there's about 70 some odd of the city of Lindsay out there, separate. And I'm not, I don't know why, but it's that way.
So is the appraisal good for 1 year? When did the appraisal happen? You know, is it just?
A couple of years old.
So, yeah,
Yeah, we requested that, what, in 20?
yeah, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's right, when Eric and Brady.
I don't know whether we, you know, if somebody came in and said, I'll give you the appraised value of it tomorrow, I don't know if that'd be the wise thing. It might be, I don't know. I mean, all I'm saying is I'm just was trying to get us off high center a little bit, so I was approaching these people and not making any of, I just said, hey, we might be interested in selling this in the future, what do you think? And tell us what you, and they hadn't got back with me yet, they're supposed to, so, and I'll share everything they tell me and then some. And like I said, we wanna make sure that when we get right down the point, that we check with the attorney, make sure what we're doing is legal. But I just wanna make you guys aware of that, cause
We definitely want to put it out to the public and give everybody a fair chance,
yes,
Absolutely.
because if not, then somebody's gonna think we're dealing under the table, and that's not what we want.
Right.
and I think we'll have to, you know, it may be that somebody buys it from, you know, California, I don't know, I mean, it's it depends how it's listed, how it's done, that's something we wanna, you know, if there's any restrictions or whatever, we'd wanna make sure our attorney was comfortable with what we put on there, how we did it, go forward. And if we wanna sell anything besides that, like I said, you guys have it behind that caboose back there, right back, there's a giant white building.
Is that on the north side?
Yes,
Yeah,
and there's another building back there that they're owned by the city, I'm almost 100% sure, and they're just there. I think there's a little bit of stuff stored in that one, but it's just, I think they had an auction at one point in time. Didn't they have an auction there, I believe? Pretty sure they did surplus stuff at one point in time. And it's,
I think it's got some public works tractors and such in it, but those can all be assessed and figured
Yeah.
out in the process.
but that's not, I just showed him what we had, and we're not, he just gonna give me some kind of proposal, and then we decide he's all wet, or that'd be a good idea, or we're gonna do it a different way. We do it by sealed bids or whatever. That's just information. Anything else anybody want to say, or I just want to mention that, because
Okay, Dennis, I think I'd ask about, do you have any kind of update on LPWA past due accounts and stuff? Where were we at on that?
We are generating the packet, with the bad debt. The city has never really moved bad debt from its I mean, they're there, but they haven't been reconciled. So, have an individual who's helping generate those, create that file document, and properly move that number of bad debt to the bad debt section in the N code. Hopefully by, she did some other things for us as well, as far as this rate study, information gathering. Probably by the end of the week, we'll have that file document, and we'll send that to the collections. Municipal court has submitted some. I think she's gotten one or two, but we have been slow getting that together. A lot of it's just staff time and learning how to figure out what electronically you send this amount of big file to, so. But we've, in that process, I'll go ahead and mention, we met with the rate study, and we've gathered that information they requested for the past 5 years, so that will be sent to them to hopefully get that done.
any other comments or questions, or anything you want to enlighten us about?
This is more LPWA, but they indicated April, maybe water meter install, waiting on transmitters. They said don't hold their feet to the fire, but we need to hold their feet to the fire, because this has got to get moving. It's been 1 year since, well, these contracts we're working with were approved in December of '21, or not approved, signed by the former mayor and such in December of '21.
I think, the voice of one at least, I want to do everything we can to make sure that our interests are held up in that contract. It was not reviewed by an attorney, and it's all, I mean, it's like me writing, I show you something, here's the details of how the sale goes, and you don't have any say-so. I mean, I'm not saying they ripped us off, I'm not saying that, but it wasn't reviewed by an attorney from our side. Is that correct?
Yes, two of the big things we found so far is the contract said that the contractor would not be responsible for any replumbing in the installation. Primarily this is water meters. And with the kind of meter cans purchased, there's going to be some replumbing on every meter to some degree. So we struck that provision out of the contract, and they've agreed they will be responsible for all the plumbing and reconnects, and that's a big deal. The other thing was a warranty issue. They started their warranty at the manufacture date, and we said, no, we're not gonna go. Once they hit us, you know, the warranty, we got a 6-month window that warranty can be canned. So we've negotiated the warranty process. So those are the big operational ones. The rest of them are more just to cover ourselves. If you have to go to legal, we're not gonna go to the state of Delaware to do it, we're gonna go to the state of Oklahoma, we're gonna do it in Garvin County, you know, those were little things we had to fix, so.
Is that something he could still help us with? Or review?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we wanna, I mean, I just wanna make sure we don't get
Yeah.
bamboozled, or, you know, we did on some previous things, not, before I came on around, and this was back a long time ago on those meters, but it was a mess, but no need to go into that, but we just don't want to happen again.
That's all I'm saying.
Any other things? Okay, we adjourn this section, and now we'll go to the LPWA section.
Motion
I
to.
make a motion.
Oh,
to
motion
approve
carried, adjourned, I'm sorry.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Inman,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Staggs.
Yes.
Now, I'll get ahead of myself, but, call the LPWA section to order. Roll call, please.
Staggs,
Here.
Hernandez,
Here.
Drennan,
Here.
Barker,
Here.
Rowe,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Inman,
Here. Consent agenda, discuss consideration possible action on consent agenda. The following items are considered routine by the Lindsay Public Works Authority. On being active with one motion, discussion desired on any item. That item will be removed from consent agenda and considered separately.
I will remove item C due to that change in purchase order claims.
Make a motion to approve A and B, less C.
Second.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Inman,
Yes?
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Staggs.
No.
Okay, see the acceptance of purchase order payments. That's, we need to, since we were,
Oh, yes. I passed out the corrected, basically the Grand River Dam Authority electric purchase had $100,000 in it. It needs, we had not received the bill, so they just saved the slot for it. And that bill is $176,206.85, and that will be, our official claim change.
okay, I need a motion with approval to recognize the change there. Unless somebody else has a question or something.
I'll make a motion to approve the claim list with the change.
Second.
Motion been made second, roll call, please.
Staggs,
Excuse me, what'd you say?
Approve the claim list with the change.
The change was that Grand River Dam Authority, $176,206.85.
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes. Okay, number 4, consideration of item on 5, resolution number 2023-02, discuss consideration of possible action to approve resolution number 2023-02, approving the mutual aid agreement with Municipal Electrical Systems of Oklahoma, MESO.
This is an annual agreement. It's basically a mutual aid agreement. If we get into distress or we need additional crews to come in and help us, they will go out and seek those crews from other communities, public power communities, and bring them in to assist us. We will be responsible for their cost, but at least we have somebody helping us bring in assistance for help.
It's like an emergency type thing.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-02.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Inman,
Yes?
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Yes.
Staggs.
Yes.
Utility Technology Service Incorporated, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve agreement between the Lindsay Public Works Authority and Utility Technology Service Incorporated for water and electric meters and installation. Authorize the mayor to sign the contract after final review by the city attorney. I want to emphasize that, after the review of the city attorney.
Yeah, we have addressed a lot while Amanda was here. And I say review of the city attorney, there's a legal document that he has to sign saying he has done all of this and reviewed it, that has to be sent to the water board. So another final review by legal will be very helpful, and also signing that document saying that he has done so as well.
Questions? In case, this is my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, is this was approved but was never reviewed by the city attorney.
No,
So-
this was never approved by previous council.
Okay.
And not ever reviewed by city attorney.
Okay, there you go.
And it came to light to that is when I had the document required from the Water Resources Board and sent it to the attorney to sign. She says, I have not seen those contracts, and I will not sign that until I am able to review those contracts. Because it's also about bonds and insurance and everything else. So that's where, then we went to search the minutes, going, when did the council, because they were signed by former employees and former mayor and former city manager. They weren't authorized to sign those agreements. The council did not approve them. I think there was an understanding, we awarded the bids, so once council awarded the bids, we can sign these, which, so that's where we got turned back around on this. It just kind of.
So we need this reviewed by our attorney so that we can move forward to getting these agreed on and
Yes.
signed and get going with getting our meters and stuff coming.
Yes. And, yeah, everybody's getting a little anxious about it, vendor, water board, all of them. So.
Well, and I understand that, but if you review it, say, I don't know, I mean,
Right, no.
I don't know either.
Yeah, if there's an issue with a particular clause, I'll point it out. I mean, it needs to be pointed out for council.
Make sure it's signable.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And typically what happens in these type of contracts, because you're dealing with outside vendors that are outside the state, they'll have clauses in there for indemnity or some other provision that is illegal in Oklahoma with respect to municipalities.
Okay.
And those need to be addressed immediately if they're in
By
there.
the way, can you come up here and say it?
You sure can.
Since we've already.
I didn't want
Yeah,
to
you're
do that
supposed
unless.
to, that way you'll be on the microphone too, so you,
Thank you.
thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
I don't know how come I didn't say that. Okay, entertain a motion on that, number 6.
I'd make a motion to approve the agreement, and allow the mayor to sign the contracts after final review by the city attorney. However, I want the provision of the final document after review is provided to all 7 of us.
I second.
Motion second, roll call please.
Staggs,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Barker,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes. Number 7, Census USA Incorporated lease, discussion, consideration, possible action to approve software as a service and spectrum lease agreement between the Lindsay Public Works Authority and Census USA Incorporated.
This is for the software and the communication between the meters and the transmitters. And, we haven't found much in this, maybe the Delaware thing, but, this is something the council needs to be aware of. Your first annual payment is out of your loan payment. That your payments on your hosting fees, and you've got 3 hosting fees, is gonna be about a $30,000 a year budget. So you need to remember that when you're doing budget, that those hosting fees, and that they're basically maintaining this communication FlexNet, and you want them to do that because we don't have that skill or it can make things really,
Keep the meters working.
yes.
Have you seen this document or this agreement, Mr. Jones?
No, because I wasn't retained.
Sure.
As council
Yeah,
today.
I didn't think so, but I would want him to review it.
Absolutely.
And just to be on. make sure all of our considerations were taken care of. Any questions, or entertain a motion if there aren't any questions?
I make a motion to approve the lease agreement after review by the city attorney and authorize the mayor to sign it if need be.
Second.
Motion second, roll call please.
Inman,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Staggs,
Yes,
Okay, this is number 8, is gonna be redundant, but it's basically the HBC, CPAs, and advisors, discussion, consideration, possible action to engage HBC, CPAs, and advisors to conduct the 2021 and 2022 fiscal year audits. Anybody have a question about that?
It's gonna be the same amount. I'll make a motion to approve HBC and CPAs and advisors to do the LPWA audits for those years.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Staggs,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes. Governing board comments, anybody?
I have a question. Has there been a letter of engagement from the state auditor yet?
I have not received anything.
Any other comments or questions? You got anything for us?
No.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned in second. Roll call, please.
Inman,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Rowe,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Drennan,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Staggs.
Me and Josh is gonna sit here. No.
Y'all can stay.